Hello everyone. Before we get this underway, I'd like to say thank you to all of the people who are wishing me a happy birthday today. Today I turned the big 30, and I feel very blessed to be surrounded by many loving people, both friends, family, and obviously a lovely wife. So I just want to say thank you very much for that. I did get an early birthday present this morning. The birthday present involved the Seattle Mariners. Seattle Mariners have fired their general manager, Jack Zduriencik. It's been a while since I've vlogged, and my goal in this video is to not come across like with a raging rant. My goal is to talk about where does the organization go and where does the fan base go, where do we as fans go from here. We've been experiencing a lot of disappointment throughout the last decade, and now we are on we will be on our third GM regime, aka we were on Jack Zduriencik regime, the Bill Bavasi regime, and we will be on our third since making the playoffs in 2001. So I don't know how long this is, but sit back and get comfortable. Let's talk some baseball. Even though everyone's like, James, why are you talking about baseball? It's football season. Because baseball is my sport, and I will stand by it. Anyway, sorry, that's another video for another day. Okay, so let's start out with what the fans need to do as we move forward, since the Mariners are going to hire a new general manager. Got a list of bullet points here. This is actually two lists, not one. Okay, so the first thing that I think it's very important for the Mariner fan base is to be open to new ideas. Now, when I say open by new ideas, I don't want to hear anything like, oh, well, we had a new general manager in Jack Zduriencik, and he said, we're going to think differently, and oh, I've heard this. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting into the mindset of how a different way to compete and a different way to put a product on the field, and to possibly come up with maybe suggestions while you're talking about Mariner baseball on how you would put together a team. And I bring this up is because whoever comes in next, right now there are names out there that I'm not going to go into, but whoever comes in next is going to have some really difficult decisions. Because Bill Bavasi took the route of, okay, I have, a couple, I'm going to patch together teams with veterans and all-stars and create this juggernaut team, and that didn't work out. Then you got Jack Zduriencik as in, okay, I'm going to take the youth movement and I'm going to blow everything up, and I'm going to work through the draft and build up prospects and then put pieces around the prospects to make the team successful. And that didn't work. And those are two different sides of the seesaw. So whoever comes in is going to have a terrible time trying to figure out what's the next direction. Do we blow it up? Do we keep a couple of guys on this losing team from 2015? Do we keep our all-stars? And the reason why I bring that up is because even though this guy that I'm going to talk about is my favorite player, and I've been against this for years, I am now at the point where I'm okay if the Mariners decide to trade Felix Hernandez. And again, he's my favorite player. I love watching him pitch. I mean, heck, you can't see it, but I got, 2K cards, one with him doing his Fairnox thing, from his perfect game a couple of years ago. And I have been against this for years because Felix Hernandez was still part of the plan. The Mariners were still on, trying to move up, and in terms of wins and statistics, and so he still was part of the 5-year plan back when he was pitching his perfect game and his complete games. In last year when he got snubbed from the Cy Young Award, the Mariners were still kind of going like this a little bit in terms of money, attendance, statistics, wins, because they were going like this in wins. They may have finished with losing seasons, but for the most part, they went like that with wins. Until this year. And so now you got a player who's in his prime, and he hasn't pitched in a postseason game, a playoff game. And so if the Mariners or if the new GM comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to trade Felix Hernandez because I'm going to get a lot from him, at this point I'm okay with it because we are looking for new ideas, because, again, we've gone the veteran route, we've gone the youth route, and none of it's worked. So we need to be open to new baseball ideas. One idea that I have, and I know it's going to sound crazy because we have this guy for 3 years, why not trade Nelson Cruz and eat his contract? Because he's in his mid-30s. He's going to finish his career, his tenure with the Mariners probably when he's around 37, 38. So unless he ends up hitting bombs like the way he has in Safeco, I don't really see the Mariners being competitive with him, years to come. So maybe eat his contract. Probably some of you might say, no, you can't do that because of the amount of money that's guaranteed. It would be hard for them to do, baseball speaking, because I don't want to get into the conversation of how athletes are paid. But that's another idea is, okay, you got guys like Felix Hernandez and Nelson Cruz who are in their prime. Maybe it's time for us to depart with these guys because long term they might not be around when the team is. They might not be around when the team finally has a core group of guys and is ready to make a playoff run. And for those of you who say, well, you need Felix Hernandez and Nelson Cruz to sell jerseys, yes, you do. But at the same time, there's only so many jerseys you can sell with a losing baseball team. So, again, these are just ideas, okay? I personally wouldn't trade Felix Hernandez, but if the M's would do it, I would be okay with it. Obviously, pending on who they would get in return. But I would be open to that idea. So we need to talk about different ways to approach how to put together a team. Second thing is, next thing that fans need to do, and I know this is going to be very, very difficult for some fans. It's going to be difficult for me because the last time the Mariners went in the playoffs, I was in high school, I was 16 years old, and my high school had 150 kids because it was the first year of that high school. That's how long it's been since the Mariners were in. I mean, heck, the original building that high school was in, we don't even use anymore. That's how long it's been since the Mariners have been in the playoffs. So, and I know this is going to stink, but we need to embrace, and I know, oh God, this is hard. We need to embrace the word patience again. This fan base is up to here in terms of hearing that. Everyone keeps saying, we need to be patient. We're gonna put a product on the field that we're gonna be proud of. We've got these players. We're gonna draft. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. That's hard to deal with year in and year out, and still buy the tickets and still watch them on TV. And I get that. The problem is now since we've gone from a potential playoff team to nothing, we need to be patient because of what's going to happen the next couple of years. We've gone from a potential playoff team to no team at all. I mean, unless your names are Felix Hernandez, Robinson Cano, Nelson Cruz, and maybe Kyle Seager, because I'd be willing to keep Seager for the remainder of his contract. Unless your name belongs to one of those four guys, in my opinion, everybody's on the hot seat. And I'm not going to go through the list, but we've gone from all these core group of guys. The bullpen is not what it was last year, for example. The starting pitching's been up and down. The offense still can't hit. We don't have anything. So we need to be prepared for the Mariners to make some really difficult decisions with this upcoming regime. Whether it be, firing Lloyd McClendon, or, trading Nelson Cruz, or keeping Logan Morganson, or deciding to start Mike Zunino as a backup catcher. At this point, I am just giving examples, okay? So before you start commenting below, these are all just examples. We need to be prepared for those decisions. And the reason why we need to be prepared is because definitely next year, 2016, and maybe in 2017, the Mariners are going to have what I call audition years. Meaning there's not going to be any pressure on the team. And I don't like audition years because of that. I also don't like audition years because in audition years, 9 times out of 10, a team doesn't usually spend a lot of money to bring in a big-time player, like a Nelson Cruz, like a Robinson Cano. They might sign Felix Hernandez, a guy like Felix Hernandez. Well, they have something, all right, we're going to pay him, XYZ dollars. So it's because of that why audition years have a tendency to start out really bland, and you just think the worst. You just absolutely think the team is going to be garbage. They're going to be one of the worst in the league, and that could happen. But then you have a situation in 2009 where there was no pressure on the Mariners, and they were a feel-good story. They won 85 games. They brought Ken Griffey Jr. back. And everybody carried Ichiro and Griffey off the field. But what happens when there's no pressure on you in your job or in general? Typically, if there's no pressure on you to perform, you do better at what you're supposed to do. And that's why I don't like audition years, because it can potentially give you false hope, like 2009. Every move that Jack Zduriencik made looked like a genius move that year. He traded this little Bill Bavasi problem over here, got him this thing, and they succeeded right away, with maybe the exception of Ian Snell. That being said, everybody thought, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. He's going to, bring us a winning product in 2010. Jack Zduriencik was actually quoted in the Seattle Times saying how because of his success in 2009, he thought he could win right away and rebuild the team. And then all of a sudden, the bullpen, now there's all this pressure. There's all this pressure that the Mariners are going to go to the playoffs in 2010. And what happens? They choked. All of a sudden, the fact that they can't hit and they can only score 3 runs a game starts sticking out like a sore thumb. And for the second season in 3 years, if you include 2008, they lost over 101 games. They lost 101 games, and they had to trade the signature piece of that offseason in Cliff Lee when we only had him for about, 2.5 months, something like that. So even though those 2 months were some of the best years as a baseball fan for me. I have a Cliff Lee jersey, and he's a Mariners jersey, and yes, that is how much I liked and enjoyed watching Cliff Lee that year. Anyway, but that gives you the idea why I don't like audition years. There was no pressure in 2009, so guess what happens? The team overachieves, now all of a sudden there's pressure, and now we start realizing that, okay, maybe we weren't as good as we thought we were. We're not who we thought we were! That's from Dennis Green. Anyway, so that's the reason why we need to start being prepared. It's going to be a rough couple, maybe 1 or 2 years. Now, if we catch lightning in a bottle and end up winning the World Series in audition year, okay, fine. That's great. But be prepared and be cautious if we do finish with a winning season that the following year, 2017, could be a little down year because of what happened in 2009. And I know I'm making a big deal about 2009, but that is basically the only audition year that I have experienced as a Mariner fan. I've experienced, make or break years, rebuilding years, playoff years, regular losing seasons, obviously. 2009, that is like a huge audition year that stands out to me as a fan. All right, now the other thing, and the last thing that fans need to do, and this is going to be very, very difficult, still support the team, okay? Now, for those of you who might say, how am I going to support the team? I'm not going to buy my ticket package until the Mariners fire Lloyd McClendon, or they get rid of Logan Morrison, or until this GM shows me that this team is going to win, and they actually win, I'm not going to support. Okay, there are plenty of ways how you can support the team without buying the jerseys, without buying the t-shirts and the ticket packages. There's plenty of ways you can do that. How can you do that and not spend money? There's something called watch them on cable or Dish or Xfinity or whatever it is that you call it. I mean, you can still watch the games and not spend any money. Heck, you could probably save money by watching the games on TV or going out to a bar instead of buying the $50 tickets, the $5 hot dogs, or whatever you decide to purchase that game. There's Twitter. That's an unbelievable way to follow the Mariners. There's social media. They're very into that. I'm using social media right now. Don't be ashamed to wear this. I mean, heck, even during football season. I'm like, part of me even wants me to wear Mariner jerseys, during football season just to let everybody know that, heck, Yes, we still have a baseball team. They might not be relevant, but we still have a baseball team. That's another video for another day. I mean, heck, you can even, wake up and say, you know what? What's in my morning paper? Oh, let's take a look and see all the Mariners. You can read about these. There are different ways you can follow and support the team without spending money. And I feel like that's forgotten because everybody focuses on how many people are actually at the game. And yes, it's fantastic to go to the game. I love going to the M's games. Been going since I've been in the 5th grade. I've enjoyed it. But you don't necessarily have to spend money to see the team nowadays because there's all these other options with the way technology is. So that's what I believe. Those bullet points are what I think the fan base needs to do in order to move forward with the Mariners and also to keep their sanity. I mean, like for example, I got tickets to one more game. And the only reason why I have those tickets is because it was a holiday gift pack, and I haven't seen the Colorado Rockies. I have a couple of teams that I haven't seen in the major leagues, and the Colorado Rockies are one of them. And if it hadn't been for that, I probably would not be going to the ballpark to use those tickets from that holiday gift pack. So even I have struggled. Diehard fan, guy who went to spring training this year, who has bought ticket packages in the past, who would travel over from Ellensburg on random days, just to go see the Mariners. When I was in college, it's even been hard for me at this point. And I've been asking Jack Zduriencik to be fired probably since early June. So, but I bring it up because, again, we are going to go through some more rough years ahead of us. So now, we've gone through what the fans need to do. What do the Mariners need to do? Okay, so before you say things like, thank you, John Madden. Of course you need to get better players and better coaches and better people. If you still feel like you need to say that after you hear me out, that's fine, but wait to say that until I'm completely done. So, what do the Mariners need to do? We need to hire a general manager who is a baseball guy, okay? Now, when I say baseball guy, I don't mean a guy who is going to pay more attention to payroll or wants to sell jerseys or just basically making moves to make moves. I'm not talking about that. Now, to give Jack Zduriencik credit to where credit's due, he did do a very good job on the business side of baseball. When he inherited the position, the Mariners were in a spider web of contracts. All this guaranteed money was going toward average players who used to be all-stars that fell flat on their face in Seattle. There were several contracts the Mariners still owed money, and the players weren't even on the team. There was the dilemma of, do you pay out the player's contract right away, or do you trade them? So, in that regard, Jack Zduriencik's actually done a very good job with this team being flexible on the payroll side of things. A lot of the players like Dustin Ackley, even though he's no longer on the team, Dustin Ackley, Logan Morrison, Brad Miller, a lot of the bullpen guys are expendable, and I think that's very key. You want to have a good balance of players who can be expendable and players who are expendable and players who you want to keep. It's a very, very fine line. And the fact that we can go into next season and we don't know who our shortstop's going to be, who our first baseman's going to be, our outfielders are going to be, that's actually a good thing for a team that just fired their GM. That's actually very, very good. Unlike the Bill Levesey year where it was like, okay, Beltre is still our third baseman. Jose Lopez is still our second baseman. All right, Kenji Josema, not Kenji Josema, excuse me. But Carlos Silva's still on the team. I mean, it's good that we don't have that dilemma. So for the business side of things, Jack Zduriencik actually did a very good job. And the guys who are getting paid a lot of money are studs like Felix Hernandez, Robinson Cano, Nelson Cruz, and Kyle Seager. Problem is, not make a lot of good baseball moves, okay? The trade to get Justin Smoke was an absolute disaster. We gave up a former Cy Young Award winner in Cliff Lee and got nothing in return. I still to this day, even though Charlie Furbush had some decent months, I still despise the Doug Fister trade. Some people would also question the Michael Pineda trade for Jesus Montero, even though you could probably debate it could go either way at this point, because Pineda's been on the DL, I think, basically the majority of the time he's been with the Yankees, while Jesus Montero is more known for throwing an ice cream sandwich at an Everett Aqua Sox game. So we need to hire a guy who knows how to make baseball decision. Maybe somebody from the Cardinals organization or the Red Sox organization or from the Houston Astros organization. Somebody who has been around a rebuilding project and has been successful, or somebody in the Cardinals organization who, even though they lost their ace Adam Wainwright for the season, still are on pace to win 104 games this year and make the playoffs. So that's the first thing. Hire a guy who is more baseball-oriented than the business side of things. Next up, we need to go back to what made the Mariners successful in previous winning seasons. Now, I'm going to use our audition year and 2009 and last year as an example. What made the Mariners so successful that year? Their bullpen was outstanding. It got to the point where the 2014 bullpen was better than the 2001 bullpen, and so the ERA was statistically better. So we need to revamp the bullpen and start dumping guys. It's already starting to happen with us DFAing Fernando Rodney. I think, unfortunately, though I like him, Joe Weimel probably is gone at the end of the year. Furbush, he's hurt. He might have to leave. So the Mariners have to basically find a bunch of guys just for their bullpen alone, and hopefully build it up to what it was back in 2009 and 2014. Now, I know this is going to be a stretch. They need to go back to what made them successful in 2001. And don't you dare tell me, or write below, that the reason why the Mariners were successful in 2001 was because of steroids. The reason why is because I think that argument is invalid. Why, you may ask? Well, let's look back at that time period. I'll be really quick on this tangent. People say that was the prime year of the steroid era, 2001. Okay, so it's the prime year. The majority of players are supposedly cheating. They are trying to get an advantage, and taking steroids doesn't make it right to put out a decent product on the field. The reason why you got to cancel that out, in my opinion, is because if the majority and every single player, or the majority of the players on every single Major League Baseball team is taking steroids, doesn't that make the playing field equal? Because if everybody's doing it, they may be cheating and they might be in the wrong, but it's still it's still an equal playing field. You're not really getting an advantage. And I'm not going to go into the whole, if you take HGH, this is what happens. If you take, the Balco, this is what happens. I'm not going to get into that. In general, if you're taking performance-enhancing drugs, and everybody around you, your opponent, your teammates, your minor leaguers, your pitchers like Roger Clemens who are trying to get a couple extra years out of their arm, if everybody's doing it, isn't it still an equal playing field? And that is the reason why I do not say steroids was the reason why the Mariners were successful in 2001. No. We need to go back to 2001 in this sense. We need to do a couple of baseball strategies. The first one is just put the ball in play. That was my favorite thing about 2001. You just put the ball in play, whether it be a single, whether it be a sacrifice fly, sacrifice hit to move a runner over, just put the ball in play. All right, we don't do that anymore. We don't look at the small things. Everybody goes up and tries to hit home runs. The Mariners actually this year at one point led the American League in solo home runs. Okay, that's great. We're hitting more home runs now. Problem is, that's all we're doing. Solo home runs don't hurt the opposing team because it's one run. The 2-run homers, the 3-run homers, they hurt teams. And For those of you who might, well, what about Grand Slams? They kill teams. All right, so that's the first thing that they need to do. Another thing that they need to do, and one of the reasons why I absolutely cannot stand the Oakland Athletics, I hate the Oakland A's more than any other professional team, more than the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, all these other big teams, is because the A's are incredibly good at doing this. We need to take a chapter out of Billy Beane's strategy, and if you ever get a chance, read the book Moneyball. It will change your perspective on baseball completely. And even though the Oakland A's have not been to the World Series with that strategy, there has been a lot of teams who have implemented the strategies of Moneyball and have been successful and have won World Series because of Moneyball. So what we need to do, to quote Peter, the scout Billy Beane hired during that 2003 run, 2002. It was 2002. To quote Peter, that scout, we need to hire guys who get on base. That's what Billy Beane did in the movie Moneyball. Okay, we need to hire guys that just get on base. Okay, that is how we are going to separate our averaging 3 runs a game to averaging 4 and 5 runs a game. Okay, if we continue this hard, grind it out, the Mariners will continue to average 3 runs a game, and they're not going to win a lot of ball games because of it. You start taking advantage, you start putting the ball in play, you start getting on base, just getting on base. Well, now all of a sudden those 3-run games turn into 4, 5-run games. Okay, basically with these two things, I want the Mariners to go back to the basics of hitting. Because we're not even doing that right now. What also did they do in 2001? They took advantage of the ballpark. They took advantage of Safeco Field. I remember when Safeco Field was built, and we were winning, and everyone's saying, oh, it's so nice. The Mariners have this luxurious stadium, and they're playing so well in it. Take advantage of your ballpark. Safeco Field is a small ballpark, which basically means playing for 1 run. Okay? What I mean by playing for 1 run is you don't need the sexy home run to get 1 run per inning. Let's say in a theoretical situation. Okay, a leadoff guy hits a double. So now you got a guy on second base. All right? So you're going to get that one guy. You're just going to focus on that one guy getting home. All right? So what do? First, you bunt. And you got a sacrifice bunt, and you move the runner from second to third. Now there's 1 out. What do you need to do? All you need to do is just hit the ball in the outfield. It can be a hit. It can be a fly. That's all you do. You can hit what is like to be known as a can of corn. Just out to center field, right center field, and then all of a sudden that runner comes in. Boom, you got 1 run. And the Mariners were awesome in 2001 doing that. And what ended up happening was by doing that, it created more pressure on the pitchers, more pressure on the defense. So now all of a sudden, guys are coming up with more runners in scoring position, and they're hitting more home runs. They're seeing more quality pitches because when there's runners on base, pitchers have to go after hitters and pitch right in the middle of the strike zone because they desperately need to get the guy out. So they need to take advantage of the ballpark. Safeco Field is a small ballpark. And I also understand that small ball is actually very, very difficult compared to a regular rally. But as you can see in the past, in 2001 to 2000 to 2003, it worked. And even when the Mariners had winning seasons in 07, 09, and last year, again, it works. You want a classic example, look at the Austin Jackson Fielder's Choice game last year that kept the Mariners in contention. All he did was hit the ball to the second baseman, and he beat out the throw. That's all he did. Small ball, got the run in. Not a big flashy hit, just a little simple, put the ball in play, and a run comes in to score. All right. Another way you can take advantage of your ballpark is do what Edgar Martinez did. And I know Edgar Martinez is the greatest designated hitter of all time, but what he did when he moved to Safeco Field, he all of a sudden said, I can't hit to the left side of Safeco Field to save my life. So I'm going to hit to the opposite side of Safeco Field. And because he ended up doing that, he ended up getting a good 2-3 years out of his career when most guys likely would have been done. And that's the reason why I think the Mariners should keep Edgar Martinez as a head coach, because even though the team is struggling, you're actually seeing players at least hit to the opposite side of the ballpark. And with you got a guy who's done it, probably he can teach it to the minor leagues. So hit to the opposite field. Just because you're a right-handed hitter doesn't necessarily mean you got to hit it to left field all the time. Hit it to right field. All right. So strategy-wise, that's what I think they need to do in order to go back. That's what I think they need to do. Go back and look at what made them successful in the past. Another big thing that's been very, very key throughout the Bill Bavasi regime and the Jack Zduriencik regime: don't rush prospects up to the minor leagues. Okay, I'm going to use two guys. Both guys I will back up. Zduriencik and Mike Zunino. Now, for those of you who are still watching at this point, saying, "How in the world can you support Zduriencik? Oh my God, he just swung at everything." Okay, hold on. The guy batted .292 his first 2 years and .272, which at the time in 2008 actually was pretty good considering everybody was down in the dumps except for Ichiro. The only time when Zduriencik stood out like a sore thumb was in 2009 because that is when he started to go down. But I use Zduriencik as an example because when he got the starting job at shortstop, the Mariners went through 6 shortstops that year. Okay, it was someone like Michael Morris, Wilson Valdez. There was another guy. Moving on. And Zduriencik was only in the minor leagues for AAA for 2 months. So now all of a sudden he's been pushed into this position and he's got to produce at the major league level. And now all of a sudden he's swinging at everything. He's not developed. He's making mistakes. The fans want him out. And just to let you know, he was successful in Milwaukee when he left. So just to give you, I'm using him as an example as a guy that Mariners rushed to the major leagues. Another big guy who I have not been on, because despite his terrible batting, like 159 or 160 or whatever, is Mike Zunino. Now, what was the first thing the Mariners did after firing Jack Zduriencik? They sent Mike Zunino down to the minor leagues. This was a great move. Why? Because Mike Zunino only played in AAA Tacoma for a month and a half. Okay, think about that for a second. A month and a half. That's like going to a job and being like, find it out, work it out, have fun. That's basically what it is. And so he did not have an opportunity to develop his skills. Catching-wise, he's been fantastic, but the Pacific Coast League, the league that Rainiers play in, is known as a hitter's league. So you're telling me that he only had a month and a half to really develop his hitting skills in a hitter's league, and then all of a sudden he's rushed up and you automatically expect him to be an impact on his team? Misuse of management, misuse of players. So do not rush guys up from the minors to the major leagues. And the way to do that